Hello and hello. Welcome back to the Undisputed Champ YouTube boxing channel. If you like the videos I've already put out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the videos, and let's get into the video of today. Guys, it's fight week. Saul, Canelo, Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders for the WBA, WBC, and WBO super middleweight world titles. I'm excited. I finally got into the fight. I'm finally here. And I think it's actually because of Billy Joe's antics leading up to this fight week. But we're going to get into that later. Starting this video, let's talk about Canelo. And the reason I wasn't really excited for the fight was Canelo is 6-0 against British fighters with 4 stoppages. And there's been no real resistance from any of the British fighters that he's fought. He's kind of dispatched with them pretty easily. The person who probably put up the best fight was Amir Khan, and Amir Khan had no right being in there with Canelo. He got pulled up in weight, he looked podgy, and he was giving Canelo a few problems before he got starched out with a highlight reel KO by Canelo. And then we have someone like Callum Smith, the last British fighter he fought, who's put in maybe the worst performance out of all the 6, even though he had height and reach. Actually, let me not even forget Rocky Fielding's terrible performance that he put in against Canelo, and he had height and reach. Off the Callum fight, though, it prompted me to do a what is happening to British boxers vid because of how poor I thought the performance was. And then I see that Billy Joe's next, and I'm just thinking to myself, another British fighter, probably a bit overhyped. Canelo's just going to dust this guy off, and Canelo's active at the moment. So I wasn't excited for the fight, I can't lie. Maybe it's a bit unfair to Billy Joe that I'm looking at previous performances against British fight, Canelo's previous performance against British fighters, and I'm thinking to myself, Billy, you ain't got much to offer, man. You haven't got height and reach. Not that apparently that matters if you're a British fighter, because you just throw that away anyway, a la Callum Smith, a la Rocky Fielding. You're not a big puncher. You've not got particularly fast hands. Your IQ isn't better than Canelo's boxing IQ. So I was thinking to myself, what does Billy Joe really have to offer? And I just couldn't really find myself getting into the fight. But as time has gone on, Billy Joe's pulled me back in. Still sticking on Canelo though. I feel Canelo has actually evolved into a master boxer for today's times. He's perfected his style of boxing, and I like to call that calculated aggression. He comes forward, but he can still move at the waist. He moves his head very well. He digs in body punches. He hits pretty hard. He plants his feet, but still manages to slip blows from the opponent. So I call it calculated aggression, and I think he's one of the best at it in this day and age. He's definitely top 3 pound for pound. Many people have him top 1. He's learned and had his learning fights against Floyd Mayweather, Erislandy Lara, Austin Trout, and Triple G, and he's come out on top, except for the Floyd fight. Or if he hasn't come out on top and got the decision, he's scraped through, but he's learned and he's evolved. And now he's the best version of himself. From the way he dispatched of Avni Yildirim. I know Avni Yildirim's a lower level opposition, but got him out of there just exactly how he should. Canelo's one of those fighters, he doesn't fight to the level of his opposition. He keeps his level high consistently. So if he's fighting someone who's poor, who's below his level, he doesn't get sucked down. Like Rocky Fielding, prime example of that. Rocky Fielding wasn't on Canelo's level, and Canelo didn't even give Rocky Fielding the chance to drag Canelo down to his level. He just dispatched him. Avni Yildirim's not on Canelo's level, and again, Canelo didn't give Avni Yildirim a chance to drag him down. He just dispatched him. When it slightly steps up in level, he does the same thing. Callum Smith wasn't on Canelo's level, but I guess he was slightly better than Rocky Fielding as a boxer. Canelo pounded Callum Smith to his arm turned into some weird shape, and Callum couldn't do anything back. I didn't give Callum a round. Liam Smith wasn't on Canelo's level. Canelo managed to dispatch of Liam Smith. So Canelo really does keep his levels high and consistent, which is props to his training camp, props to the way he conducts himself outside of training camp by staying in shape. Obviously, we still have the potential PED issues, and I hope no issues with drugs come up in this fight. And, I can just hope that there was just a miscommunication or whatever when he was popped. But anyways, let's put that behind, because they've managed to clear that up somehow, some way. Billy Joe, on the other hand. Billy Joe, he hasn't shown his peak, and he's a fighter that actually fights down to his levels of opposition a lot. His record isn't deep like Canelo's. Best name on his record is probably Andy Lee, who then retired after a fight. So an old Andy Lee, a young Chris Eubank Jr., who before fighting Billy Joe hadn't stepped up at all, and Chris Eubank has not gone on to win a major world title yet. And then David Lemieux. David Lemieux was a world titleist at middleweight, but looking at it objectively, I always thought David Lemieux was pretty poor. Plodding fighter with heavy hands. He punches hard, and if he can land them hooks, but they're so telegraphed. And before fighting Billy Joe, he'd already been stopped by GGG with pretty much just a jab. So David Lemieux didn't really have much to offer. But Billy Joe, I'll give him props in that fight. He looked good. He didn't stop David though, like GGG did, but he looked very nice, very slick in that fight. So on to the Billy Joe antics, and some people have been buying into these antics. I haven't been buying into them at all. I am nearly certain they're all just mind games to try and throw Canelo off his game. And some of them might even be working. But Billy Joe has complained, up to date now, he's complained about the judges, saying that he wanted a British judge on there, and it's unfair that there's no British judge. But bearing in mind there's no Mexican judge on the panel, and Billy Joe doesn't pick the judges, the commission picks the judges, and Canelo doesn't pick the judges either. He's complained about the fight purse, saying that if he knew there were going to be fans in the stadium, he would have asked for a bigger fight purse. It's unfair that he's getting the fight purse he's getting even though there's fans in the stadium. But he has to also bear in mind that there's been fans in the stadium for the last 2 Canelo fights, which have all been in COVID. So Billy Joe knew there was going to be fans in the stadium. Him bringing that up is a moot point. His team knew that, and him saying that he's not getting the correct purse, not getting nothing to do with Canelo, that's to do with his team. He's complained about the ring size, saying that the ring size is not the agreed ring size. Again, this is down to Billy Joe's team. Billy Joe is saying that he's going to pull out the fight until the ring size is sorted. Now he's saying that he's happy with the ring size. All just tactics to get into Canelo's head. I knew there was no way the hell he's pulling out that fight. This is probably the biggest purse of his career. He ain't going nowhere. Billy Joe gonna stay in that fight. I'll tell you that for nothing. Even if they got to wheel him to that ring, he gonna be in that ring. He needs that purse. And then he's been getting on to the promoters. Eddie Hearn's supposed to be Billy Joe's promoter, but Billy Joe's saying that he's promoting Canelo more, and Canelo's supposed to be the free agent in this fight. So Billy Joe is just looking at every which way to complain and try and get into Canelo's head. And you know what? I'm going to say it's working, because Canelo did his arrival the other day. He started swearing at Billy Joe's team in English. I was like, huh? Canelo swearing at Billy? What? Are you rattled? Well, obviously he's rattled, but he's annoyed. And then Billy Joe didn't turn up to the press conference on fight week. Now Canelo's there in the press conference on his own. No one really been doing this to Canelo. No one's really been getting into Canelo's head like this, probably since the Floyd Mayweather fight or Mary De Lara fight, which is years back now. So I just see this all as mind games by Billy Joe. He's trying to get any edge he could possibly get, and I hope he does get the edge. But ideally, I'd love to make my pick when I see them on the scales. But from my experience of at least Canelo always looks good on the scales. Billy Joe, I mean, if he looks bad on the scales, it's just gonna make it worse for himself. And I'm probably gonna say Canelo on points. No one stopped Billy Joe thus far, and I think Billy Joe is probably a bit braver than Callum Smith. So he might try and take a few more chances, but I don't think he's going to get stopped. I think he's probably defensively responsible enough to ride enough of Canelo's shots to get through the 12. But I'm going to say a dominant performance by Canelo. I can see it going 12. So UD, Canelo Alvarez, and then we move on from there. I would love it if Billy Joe, after all this talking, all these mind games, can go out there and put in a performance for the ages and get the win, but I can't see it. And if he's truly thinking in his heart of hearts that he's going to win on points, then he's deluded himself. He needs to, if he wants to get the W, he needs to go out there and get a stoppage, because I don't see how he's going to win these rounds clearly. Canelo's way too cerebral as a boxer for that, so he needs to go out there and get a stoppage, and I can't see that happening. So yeah, I've got Canelo on points. I hope the fight's exciting. I hope he puts in a better performance than Callum Smith. And I want to say they're riding for Billy Joe, but Billy Joe's just got so many antics in his locker. People are probably turned off him. But I'll be watching this as a neutral. I don't really mind who wins, and if Canelo wins, he's one belt closer to undisputed, and hopefully we can get that Caleb Plant fight next, get an undisputed champion. What we love on this channel, what we strive for, what we support, undisputed champions, and hopefully we can get one at super middleweight. So yeah, post fight vid incoming. But yeah, thanks for watching.